Hello, you're watching Eye on Africa. I'm James Creedon. Here are our headlines. Fighting has broken out near the Congolese city of Goma. Many locals have fled across the border to Rwanda. What's behind that violence? Will bring you more at the top of the show. The UK and Rwanda are to settle 50 undocumented migrants who arrived on British shores in the Rwandan capital, Kigali. The deal is part of a plan to return illegal migrants and dissuade others from making the journey. But how will it work? We'll take a closer look. And Zimbabwe wants to sidestep international conventions to its $600 million stockpile in black market ivory. We'll bring you more on that later on in the show. Thanks for watching. Now, fighting broke out overnight in the border region of DR Congo and Rwanda near the city of Goma. Reports say it was down to clashes between the Congolese armed forces and the M23 militia group. M23 emerged out of a 2013 Tutsi rebellion in DR Congo that was supported by Rwanda and Uganda at the time. Now, last night's fighting north of Goma city comes a day after Rwanda's army said rocket shelling from Congolese armed forces had struck areas inside Rwandan territory. Civilians injured in those clashes. Now, DR Congo's government has yet to respond to the statement. The result so far, thousands were sent fleeing the violence in and around Nyiragongo. Some fled to Goma itself, others over the border into Rwanda. Let's take a listen to some reactions of those impacted by the violence.
We are fleeing the fighting that broke out in Kibumba 2 hours ago. We have been told to evacuate the village. That's why we are leaving. We asked President Felix Tshisekedi to help us, to tell us where we can find shelter, because we have lost everything.
We are tired of war. Our kids are dying. Our husbands are being killed. We've lost everything. We're poor. We can't work our fields because we're forced to flee all the time. We demand that President Tshisekedi negotiate with his counterpart so that people don't die anymore and we can live in peace.
Now, caught up in a crisis on another continent, Cyril Ramaphosa has said that other countries, he referred to them as bystander countries, were suffering due to sanctions against Russia. South Africa's president called for peace talks as the African Union prepared a mission to foster dialogue between Moscow and Kiev. Now, Ramaphosa spoke as the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited South Africa on the final leg of a trip to the continent, partly aimed at rallying diplomatic support for Ukraine. But South Africa has close historical ties to Moscow due to the Soviet Union's support for the anti-apartheid movement. Now, just one example of that legacy, it abstained from a UN vote denouncing the invasion of Ukraine. Let's take a listen to the South African president.
Now, the sanctions that have been imposed on Russia are going to have and are having an overarching impact. Even those countries that are either bystanders or not part of the conflict are also going to suffer from the sanctions that have been imposed against Russia.
50 migrants who arrived illegally on British soil will be sent to Rwanda in the coming weeks. The country is preparing to host them in several hotels in the capital after the signing of an agreement on the 14th of April. Now, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been widely criticised for this measure. He defends it as a way of dissuading illegal migrants and smugglers from crossing the channel from mainland Europe to the UK. Last year, more than 28,000 migrants and refugees made the crossing from mainland Europe to Britain on often rickety boats. Rwanda has already concluded a similar agreement with Israel. It involves welcoming return migrants of several different nationalities.
In the coming weeks, migrants deported from the UK will be sent to the Hope Hostel. Despite the controversy surrounding their arrival, the manager's seen an opportunity to fill his rooms. He's charging London €70 per day per migrant.
We are able to host 100 people. We have 50 rooms. They are permitted to go out as they want. It's not a prison. It's an area of a location.
The hostels were built in 2014 to give refuge to orphans of the genocide against the Tutsi. About 20 of them were still present here when the partnership with the United Kingdom was announced. They have since been ordered to leave the premises.
Most of the orphans were students. We went to the hotel to find refuge during our studies. We were given money to live, but it's not enough to cover our needs over a year when it comes to buying food and other equipment. We are going to have to go back to our miserable old life. There is nothing left for us. Tomorrow I will be chased off the street and I will return to the bush where I survived before coming into this hotel.
The Kigali government has, however, denied asking anyone to move from the hostels and say the students have to be independent. Authorities say they're ready to welcome 500 migrants on 3 quality hotel sites. But with time, they will be relocated.
The program is clear. People have to live with Rwandans at some point. So they are there to find out who is a migrant, who is a refugee, who wants to return home. After this procedure, they will have to be disseminated among the population.
Rwanda has already taken in people evacuated from Libya under the agreement signed with the High Commissioner for Refugees and the African Union. The agreement with the United Kingdom will be entirely financed by British taxpayers, with the country initially paying 144 million euros.
For decades, the Ivory business has led to the massacring of elephants, the destruction of their herds, and the potential extinction of the species. Despite this, Zimbabwe has now opened an international conference to try to win international support for its campaign to be allowed to sell its stockpile of seized ivory. Now, if the country is not permitted to sell off its 130 tons of ivory, estimated at, as I said, $600 million, officials warn it may quit the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Shirley Sitbon has more.
Selling ivory is bad, or is it? While the international trade is banned to curtail poaching, Zimbabwe says things are not that simple. It wants to make a one-off sale of the stockpiles of elephant horns it has seized over the years.
We don't see everything wrong, anything wrong with another once-off sale in this COVID-19 pandemic era. Conservation is indeed an expensive venture.
While elephants risk extinction in many countries, their population has exploded in Zimbabwe, which has 100,000 of them. Zimbabwe says it needs the money generated by the potential sale, some $600 million, to manage its elephant populations. Activists in countries like Kenya and Tanzania, whose elephant populations are endangered, disagree. They say that an ivory sale, wherever it may happen, would be a terrible blow for them.
Doing so would open up, the black market for poachers to also sell a rhino horn and elephant ivory. And so that's a very great danger, to our already endangered species.
Zimbabwe needs solutions fast to manage its herds. Elephants unwillingly kill dozens of humans every year. Relocating them takes planning, time, and a lot of money.
Kenya and Zimbabwe have been excluded from the 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifiers. The countries failed to have their suspensions by FIFA set aside. FIFA had suspended both federations on the 24th of February due to government interference. The qualifiers will kick off on the 1st of June. To Ivory Coast next, where after a 3-year absence, the Abidjan Book Fair is back. The event served as an opportunity for the organisers and participants to rekindle the public's relationship with reading, this at a time when literature is under threat by social media and online content. Our correspondents Hanan Farjani and Damien Kofi report.
One of the Abidjan Book Fair's most popular events is once again taking center stage. This time around, more than 300 people have taken part in this intergenerational dictation. And as the tradition goes, this exercise is not about competition.
This is an uninhibited way to gather the young, the not so young, and the elderly to come and practice their spelling skills. It's also a way to promote and develop the national book publishing and reading industry.
This year, dictations are happening in 5 other Ivorian cities at the same time, with one clear goal in mind: reigniting the public's love for books. In the fair's corridors, a plethora of book stands compete with each other for attention as well-known writers meet and greet their fans. But this event has also opened its doors to newcomers, like this career coach who recently began writing to share her skills with a wider audience.
I think we're heading for a new era. People have come to realize that they can have fun, but also learn and succeed professionally.
Nassif's manual on building a successful career is available on the Nimba platform, a publishing house that specializes in African stories and focuses on staying in tune with the modern reader.
The way we disseminate our talents' work is twofold. It is both physical and digital. We have a partnership with a digital library called Uscribe, which allows everyone, wherever they are in Ivory Coast or in the sub-region in French-speaking Africa, to have access to our entire catalog for 100 CFA francs a day.
To reach more African and Afro-descendant communities, this publisher from Guadeloupe proposes immersive audio experiences.
In the Caribbean, the illiteracy rate is almost at 40%. And when I talk to officials here, it seems that more than half of the population of Ivory Coast is illiterate. Does this mean they shouldn't have access to books?
According to the organizers, this edition welcomed nearly 100,000 visitors, a clear indication they believe that African literature and its enthusiasts are here to stay.
All right, that's all for this edition of Eye on Africa. Thanks for watching.
La medida de Congolese veut dire beaucoup pour les lapidants.
Bienvenidos a las noticias de France 24.
Thanks very much for joining us. أهلا بكم في ثقافة في عدد اليوم. Ravi de vous retrouver pour Afrique Hebdo. Au programme cette semaine.
نسمع بين حين والآخر.
This storm has hit New York City a lot.
President. 3, 2, 1.
Madagascar fait face à une seconde vague meurtrière.
Almost 99 million of you watch us every week. So thank you.
Shukran.
Gracias. Your confidence means a lot to us.
Muchas gracias.
شكرا على هذه الثقة.
Thank you.
Merci du fond de mon cœur.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.